Well, hello everyone and welcome to this meeting of the Harpenden Town Council Planning Committee held on Tuesday, the 27th of September. I will go straight into the bulk of the agenda. Apologies for absence.
No, none have been received. We're all present and correct.
Lovely stuff. Any declarations of interest from councillors? Councillor Turnbull.
Number 1877. As the non-pecuniary interests, I know the individual who's made this application. I will therefore not take part in the discussion.
Perfect. Which property number is that, sir?
1877.
What's the address?
Apple's Close.
Lovely.
Also, 16 Townsend Lane, a non-pecuniary interest, number 2062. I know the architect, he designed my house, and he was involved in the designing of my daughter's house down the road, number 10 Townsend Lane, but I will participate because I have no interest other than interest as a town councillor.
Councillor Lutterworth.
Yes, on page 32, 989, 26 Lyndhurst Drive, the applicant is known to me, so I'm declaring a non-pecuniary interest, and I will not participate in the debate and I will not vote.
Thank you, Councillor Lutterworth. Councillor Hill.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I've also got personal non-pecuniary interest in Part 2022-1989 at 26 Lyndhurst Drive, as I live at 15 Lyndhurst Drive, so live nearby. I'm friends with people who are also neighbours who have commented on the application.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hill. Did you get all of this?
I have, yeah, it's fine. I can pick it up from the
Has anyone else got any declarations of interest at this stage? No. As ever, if you spot one during the meeting, do wave at me and we'll take it at the moment that it becomes apparent. On to the minutes of the meeting of the Planning Committee held on the 30th of August 2020. Are we happy to take those as a true record? All in favour? Lovely. Some green. Lovely.
Yeah. 22nd today.
I read it at the start of the meeting. I just forget it all the time. Longer with it.
Not too long, isn't it?
Lovely stuff. Item 4, Chairman's report and urgent items. So at this point, I think it's appropriate to note that this meeting was postponed by a week as a result of the previously scheduled date falling within the period of national mourning. That does mean that for the first list of applications, we are outside the call-in period, and therefore we won't be taking a vote on initiating a call-in on those items because we can't. I would also note that one of the applications was taken under delegated authority because the town clerk and I felt that a call-in could be initiated. So it's taken under delegated authority given the extraordinary circumstances that we were operating in. I don't think there are any other urgent items.
Okay, that's absolutely fine.
Lovely. On to item 5, public questions in accordance with standing orders 22 and 23.
No, none have been received, Chair.
Thank you. Letters of objection. So we have the letters of objection in the packet at 26 Lyndhurst Drive. And I also note that we've had a number of other letters of objection that have been circulated to councillors. We will take those or we'll consider those at the appropriate items. So on to applications registered for the weeks ending the 26th of August, the 2nd of September and the 9th of September. As we have members of the public present, I will take items in which members of the public are interested first so that they have an opportunity to leave us after the item in which they are interested, should they so wish. So we start on page...
Yes, so page 32.
Page 32.
Yeah, the first application that we've got on the list for consideration is for number 26 Lyndhurst Drive.
Perfect. So what I will do, so it's application 5/2022-1989 and 26 Lyndhurst Drive. I will ask the member of the public, whose name I'm afraid I
Yes,
don't know.
it's, Mr. Gillen. If you like,
Do you want me to?
yeah.
I will ask Mr. Gillam to speak for up to 3 minutes, and then I'll ask you to take your questions after that.
Just bear with me just a second, Mr. Gillen, I've got some images that I can share on the screen. Committee. The joys.
Everyone chose the one where I'm not participating, but I think participate in this, if that's all right.
Yes, no, that's absolutely fine, absolutely.
Okay, so some of the images that I've got here were ones that I had prepared before I had letters of objection sent to me by residents, which I will sort of scroll through. But if I can draw your attention to the photographs and the wording that were included in your agenda pack. Well, this presentation. So when you're ready, Mr. Gillen.
Good evening. I'm Rod Gillam. I live in 26A Lyndhurst Drive, one of the members immediately. Thank you for the opportunity to present the case of the objection on behalf of the neighbours who have submitted objections. And we kindly request that this committee supports our objection and advises the district not to oppose the application as presented. Our main objections are threefold. Firstly, we believe the proposal is an overdevelopment of the plot in terms of scale, bulk, mass and density that is out of character and detrimental to the street scene and neighbouring properties. The proposed 2 3-storey, 5-bedroom houses are too large for the plot. The higher ridge lines, large crown roofs, width, depth and bulk of the units will have an overbearing, overcrowding and terracing effect on the existing street scene. These would also become the narrowest detached plots on this area of the street. Plans appear to be overstated and the true plot width, the plans appear to overstate the true plot width by ½ metre, and that omits detailed dimensions of the eaves and gutters that have to be in place on the design. The submission implies the plot can accommodate 2 units with gaps along the boundaries. But given that we've identified an error in the plan, we believe that this proposal is unrealistic on the plot alone. Plans also create additional parking and water runoff issues on the street, in our opinion. Secondly, all immediate neighbours will be significantly overlooked, overshadowed and suffer unacceptable loss of privacy and amenity, both to habitable rooms and gardens. The side elevation, mass and bulk projects much further back than either 24 or 26A. The walls and side windows will unacceptably overshadow and overlook key habitable rooms. For 24, the plans misrepresent the rear layout. Unit 1 will extend 7 metres beyond and look back into number 24's first floor bedroom window and ground floor dining area. This would significantly breach, in our opinion, the 45-degree angle test. For 26A, the massive rear extent of Unit 2 will significantly overshadow the rear glass roofed kitchen dining room with an unacceptable loss of light and amenity and privacy to this room. For 2 and 6 Granby Avenue, the front and side windows of both units will directly overlook the ground and first floor living spaces of the garden. This, together with the increased ridgeline, represents an unacceptable loss of privacy, amenity and light to those 2 properties. Thirdly, the application lacks significant information required to fully assess the impact of the proposal. These in particular are the absence of any elevation detail relative to adjacent properties on the street scene and the sloping terrain. There is nothing on the required excavation works and its impact on water drainage in this area where we know we have drainage problems on the street. There's also been no ecological or tree surveys undertaken, and we must like the committee to note that 3 mature trees were removed just prior to the submission of this submission of this plan. So in conclusion, we believe that this proposal is an overdevelopment of the plot, resulting in overshadowing, overlooking, loss of light and an unacceptable infringement on neighbouring amenity. It does not comply with either the Harpenden neighbourhood or the St Albans district local plan, and we kindly request that this committee supports our objections and advise the district that they are opposed to the application. We would also like to welcome any site visits by the planning committee to ensure that they better understand the concerns of the neighbours.
Thank you very much. So I will at this point, Heather, ask you to give your observations, if that's okay.
Yeah, so I mean, the observations were drawn together before we've received a number of the objections, but just to really sort of outline a little further what Mr Gillam has said is that the proposal is to demolish the existing chalet bungalow, the detached garage and replace with 2, 4, straight possibly 5 bedroom detached dwellings with accommodation in the roof. The total garage is parking for 2 cars on the frontage. The building line of the new dwelling falls behind the front building lines of the neighbouring properties and is in line with the rear of number 24 Lyndhurst Drive and marginally beyond that of number 26A Lyndhurst Drive. No street view drawing has been provided to gauge the compatibility or impact on the street scene. However, the roof lines appear to be of a similar height to the neighbouring properties, but much higher than the existing dwelling. There's a gap down the boundary with neighbouring properties and between each dwelling, although in comparison to the existing, a large flank wall is proposed to the side of each property, which could cause a detrimental effect on the neighbouring properties. A good amount of amenity space is proposed to the rear. No tree works proposed as part of this application, although it is noted that 3 mature trees in the front garden have already been removed. This could lead to a possible overlooking and loss of amenity to number 2 Granby Avenue due to the lack of screening and the introduction of windows at the first floor level. New vehicular access is proposed for Unit 2, with the existing to be used for Unit 1, not conservation area. And then I move on to say express concern that proposed new dwellings could create a detrimental impact on the street scene and a loss of amenity to neighbouring properties from their scale, bulk and massing. Concern is also expressed over the possible loss of amenity from overlooking to number 2 Granby Avenue. Policy 69 and 70 of the district plan and ESD 1, ESD 2 and T11 of the Department of Labour Planning Affairs.
Thank you, Heather. Any comments from councillors on this one? Councillor Campbell.
My reaction is negative, I'm afraid. Firstly, I felt the planning package was pretty poor. You couldn't, it wasn't big enough to see it really properly, the plan layout. The judge, some of the comments made in there, I think your covering letter, there was no street scene. There's a question, is there a hedge coming out? Does that need consent, etc.? The mass and bulk for the size, I'm inclined to be very negative.
Councillor Palmer.
Yes, I would agree. I mean, to refuse, it is in some respects difficult to judge because it is for package, but as far as it's possible to judge, it is overbearing, it's over large, it is certainly incompatible with the street scene, and it's quite a distinctive street scene on Lyndhurst, and I certainly fear to refuse.
Any other comments from councillors? Councillor London.
Is it possible to confirm about the 45-degree angle?
No, in all honesty, because the drawings were so poor that you can't actually really see. So, I mean, the image that's on the screen here is really the only one that will help you to have an understanding of the 45-degree angle. I mean, that would say that in theory, yes, the 45-degree angle to the property to the left is not impeded. However, to 26A, possibly yes.
I mean, I think I'm right. I looked at the plan. I'm right in saying that's a 2-story wall right up to there. I think I'm right in that. And this is all glass. So therefore, in my view, the 45-degree angle is.
It's taken, yes, it's yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Councillor Palmer.
Just to query, I'm assuming when it refers to 3 trees already being removed, that they have simply been removed without any application or any permission to do so.
It's questionable as to whether or not permission was required, but it was done separately from this particular application. Yeah.
So I think the consensus I'm getting from the committee is we're minded towards refusal. I would personally be minded to add in some language about the lack of adequate information to be able to form a judgment on some of the stuff that's been provided, because I think it is important to note that as much as anything else, we have to make a decision to refuse because we can't say if it is or isn't going to have a negative impact because we don't have enough information to do so.
No.
And then other than that, I think the existing language about impact on the street scene, loss of amenity, overlooking, I would also just add that I think it is an overdevelopment on the plot.
Okay, yeah.
Any other language that councillors would like to see added to the recommendation?
Character. Have we said that already? As character.
Detrimental impact on the street scene sort of covers that. We can.
I think it kind of, in a sense, we can certainly use the word character because there is the additional usage, additional sort of wording under the policy for that.
Lovely. Well, we'll add some language that includes the word characters. Any other language points we'd like to add?
Is it conservation area?
It's not, no.
I can't see any further, in which case I will put refusal on that basis to a vote. All in favour?
Okay, so yeah, no, that's fine, that's agreed.
Lovely.
Okay.
So that's 26 Lindsay Drive. You're welcome to stay if you would like, but you can also head off if you prefer.
Before you leave, once the minutes have been agreed, then all of the wording of this will go up live onto our website and the minutes. So you're welcome to have a little look to see what our exact words are to the district council.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Okay, I think the next one is the next one.
It is, yeah. So, Ms. Postfield, would you like to come up and take a seat?
So lovely. So this is 5/2022 2113 20 Manland Way. Again, I'll do the same process as before, where I'll ask Mrs. Postfield, was it?
It is, yes.
To speak for up to 3 minutes, and then I will ask you to give your observations after that, Heather.
Okay, that's fine. Whilst Mr. Postill's speaking, I have got some images on here that I will share. So some of these were received today, so which means you were unable to view them in the agenda pack. So that's why I've included them within the screen presentation.
When you're ready, Mrs. Postfield.
Okay, so I've already submitted a detailed objection, which I'm hoping you'll have had a chance to look at. I was advised to come along this evening. I'm not about to repeat all my objections verbatim, but I do have some grave concerns as to the sheer size and overdevelopment of this proposal. It's not congruous with the street scene. And then I was going to go through my photos, which might be difficult.
The photos are actually up here on the screen.
So I've got some street scenes of the other semis on Manland Way.
The street scenes I did not include, but these I have included, which were specific to your particular. But the street scenes are in the councillor's pack in front of me. It's not here on the screen.
Okay, so the other semis nearby, they're simple block designs at the front. They've all got gable roofs. This proposal is hit and better reflects the detached properties up the road. It's 2-storey at the front. That's my view from the front door on the right. The other semis are only 1-storey at the front. In effect, my property is now stepped back from both properties on either side. I think this photo on the left is from the rear of my property out the patio doors, and that's where they're proposing a pergola structure. It was just going to be a patio, but they've also got like patio doors facing me that weren't there before. The sheer scale of the development. There was one picture showing the side of it, that on the right, where you can see like the size of the original semi and the size of the proposed extension. The one on the left is just from is where the pergola is going to go again, and it's going to be as high as the top of my guttering. There's views from my rear 2nd bedroom. The entire back of my house now is overshadowed from late afternoon by this 2-storey structure. Notably, my kitchen skylight, my main bathroom and the 2 rear bedrooms. It also, my extension when I had it done was just single story with a cat slide roof, so my neighbours wouldn't lose their amenity to light. The daylight study was insisted upon. All the houses down the hill are overshadowed now, and 50 Crossway, their rear living space is in shadow after 5 PM at the moment. It's just incongruous and out of character. That's going to be done in white render throughout. There's little patches on the semis of white render, but nothing like all of that. They're going to do in white render. At the back, I'm going to get blinded probably by the sun bouncing off the white render before being overshadowed. And just concentrating on the additions they've put in. I've already said from my rear patio doors with the pergola. The pergola, I think, is by way of circumventing the 45-degree rule, and it will bring the neighbours right up to my boundary. I'm worried it will lay the foundation for them to infill it later on. I'm worried about noise and light right next to my patio doors. The patio is not included on the plans, and there's relatively little proportion of garden left. They'll only have 11 metres left. Garden conversion, I don't think needed. It represents a further overdevelopment. Garage conversion will have a door and windows facing back towards my property at the rear. I previously asked for a restriction to be put on further development, and already they've put this one in. And originally the car parking was deemed insufficient, yet it was given the go-ahead. No one seems to have taken into account any potential impact on my property, and I just don't know at what point someone's going to say it's overdeveloped. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
There is the one showing the plot that's quite important because it shows like the proportion of garden left. Put it on paper, it was this. Yeah, so we've got that as part of the pack. I think I drew it like because that one doesn't show the neighbouring property scale, and this one I've drawn it on to show how massive it is.
Not sure that was included with what you gave me today.
Would you mind passing that around?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lovely.
Can I ask a technical question?
Yes.
A pergola?
Yeah.
Is that something that you would need planning permission for?
In theory, no, I don't believe, but it could be that maybe they do have to because of the sheer volume of development that they've done, because it's not deemed as being an infill structure. No, possibly not. To be honest, it's the sort of thing that probably can be done on a certificate of lawfulness, but maybe they've gone beyond the amount of capacity they can have on certificate of lawfulness.
Either way, it's in the planning application. It's relevant for us to consider. So this is the drawing that we received.
Okay, so my observations were this proposal mirrors that which was given permission earlier this year, but with the addition of the conversion of the existing rear single garage into a home office straight gym with a small patio in front. In addition, there is a metal frame pergola to the side and a gap created to the side of the proposed rear extension. All other proposals to the main house remain the same. Observations of the previous application were proposal site is located opposite Sir John Law School on the entrance to Barton Close and is a semi-detached property, with the neighbouring property currently undergoing building work. Proposal looks to add ground floor and first floor extensions, with the bulk of the extensions to the side of Barton Close and over the existing flat roof ground floor element. Proposal appears to add in an additional bedroom to total 4/5 on the plot. Due to the location of the property and the neighbouring property also carrying out works, there appears to be a limited effect on the neighbouring property. Proposals appear to be in keeping with the surrounding area and with the host property. Parking spaces proposed at the frontage to offset the loss of garage, along with the retained space within, providing only 2 parking spaces on the site. And I've repeated the wording that we used last time, with the expressed concern that there is insufficient off-street parking provision. The proposed number of bedrooms in the property is 40 to 72 for the district plan affairs.
Just on that, Heather, I've noted that last time we said exacerbated site being the half and control parking zone. I presume that's still true.
It is still true, yeah.
I would like to see that.
Include that, yeah.
I don't think that's what you said. You said.
Sorry, last time we also added in some language about it being exacerbated by the site being located in the half and control parking zone. This is a secondary school. And unless the secondary school was moved, I presume it was still the case. Okay, any comments from councillor?
I have a technical question. I do recall that it sort of called in last time, obviously approved by whatever the body is, it's a talk list. I think it was planned anyway. So this is coming again, and though I've heard what the objector said, and I'm very sympathetic to all those points. We can't undo what has already been approved. And therefore, as a technical matter, things which have been approved, that they're approved. I'm slightly confused why this is reapplying to things which have already been approved, rather than just being a standalone application for the things which are extra, which are different, like the single garage into a home office and the pergola. But I think we have to bear that distinction in mind. We can't look at this anew as if we've not seen it before. It's no one's planning and not seen it before. As I understand it, and unfortunately, from the point of view of the objector next door, speaks very eloquently, we can only criticise the things which are new.
That has been our policy in the past.
But I don't think we have a choice, actually.
My point being, yes, I would agree.
And therefore, do we mind a garage converted into a home office on its own, not a big deal, except for the loss of parking provision, which is important.
It is important.
I presume, therefore, that's why the officer's recommendation to consider express concern, etc., is so limited, because we're not criticising it as a whole. We can only criticise the things we can criticise.
To be fair, the my consideration was detailed before I received external comments from the neighbour next door, but you're absolutely right that I needed to look at it on the basis of what we looked at last time and taking into account what changes there were, which actually the changes really, apart from being a pergola, relate purely to a parking issue. The garage is going and we're losing a parking space there, but gaining one on the frontage. So that's why my wording remained the same as what we said last time.
And just to make it clear to the objectors when they come along, the fact that we're not criticising the rest of the scheme is we can't, because it's been approved. So we can't have an opinion on that, but for better or worse. Okay, I just wanted to be clear about that. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Palmer.
Yes, presumably, and I take the point, it's a bit of a grey area about the pergola, but presumably if we feel, and it looks as if it is have an adverse effect or potential adverse effect on the amenity of the neighbouring property, that there's no reason why we cannot either recommend refusal or express concern. So we can at least address
That element of the application,
the application.
And I think as well, it would be worth considering that we think it's an open development with the additional extra bits of development, given it was already quite a large development.
And the addition of additional bedrooms or bedrooms.
Yes.
But that hasn't changed since the previous application.
Any other comments?
Regarding a technical matter, obviously the work is current. I'm not quite sure whether the current work extends to the extra work that's now been applied for, or whether it really is a retrospective application in that respect or not. But as I understand it, we don't take that into account, even if the whole work had been done. We look at it as
they can have built the entire house without planning permission. We just look at the application.
For better or worse.
That's the right way to do it, or not a separate question entirely. Any other comments from councillors? I think, as I say, personally, I consider it an overdevelopment with the additional pergola. And I think that the parking remains concerning. So I will propose to committee a recommendation of refusal on the basis of overdevelopment. And that the committee also has concerns about the parking, because I don't think we can refuse on the parking. I think we should know that we have concerns on that. I would put that to a vote and see if we have a majority for it. All in favour?
That's fine.
That's fine. Yeah, the majority.
Okay, so it will be recommend refusal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, Mr. Costa, you're welcome to stay, but if you have better things to be doing with your evening, equally welcome to have a nice evening.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Take that away.
Yes, please. Which page is?
It's I just it's on page 40.
Found it. This is 5/2022 to 062, 16 Townsend Lane. I would note that unlike the previous two applications, which were not able to be called in by this committee because we passed the call-in deadline as a result of the delay to this meeting caused by national mourning, we can, if we wish to, call this in. So we'll have a conversation about that at that point. I will once again invite
Mr. Jelfs.
Mr. Jelfs. I would invite Mr. Jelfs to speak for up to 3 minutes, and then I will pass over to Heather for your recommendations.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson.
I am indeed.
Yes.
I'm indeed. I just bring me an illustration which should be part of the pack, I believe.
Yes, so actually, I think
I brought the original rather than.
that's what's on the screen now.
Oh, fantastic. There you go. Okay. Right, I did bring the original. I wasn't too sure how to scan will come across, but thank you very much. Right. Good evening. My name's Dean Jelfs. I'm the owner of the property. I am a chartered engineer and low carbon consultant, and I've lived in this area for over 20 years. We have 4 children, 2 of which have been sleeping in the dining room throughout this planning process. So we are now on our 4th application. The last application had no objections from this committee last year and was approved by the St Albans Planning Department. However, following the councillor's calling, the District Planning Committee refused our application. It's currently under appeal. Hence, we've engaged a new architect, Howard Pease, a local architect well known in Harpenden, to provide a new design that addresses the calling issues and reasons for a refusal. The reason for refusal is due to the proposed design, scale, and bulk failing to preserve or enhance the appearance of the conservation area. The new design is more traditional, using gable front features, pitched roof, and brick detailing that is common in the conservation area. Our new scheme has reduced the size and bulk. We have removed one front gable, the side covered walkway, and the rear pergola. In addition, we have pitched the flat roof design at the rear and incorporated a Portland stone string course and window sill detailing. Our proposal, in our view, is not overdevelopment. Our street contains comparable 5 and 6 bedroom houses on smaller plots than ours. We have consulted with our neighbours. They are happy with our design, and we have received comments of support. The new dwelling would be energy efficient and built to a high quality with sustainability at the heart of the scheme. This area of conservation contains a variety of housing, from new builds, apartment blocks, 1970s housing, a Kia garage, prefabricated scout hut, a wooden clad chalet. We believe that our new design would enhance the area with Edwardian style proportions and design. The 3 points of call-in at the time we have addressed: the air source heat pump has been removed from the scheme, size and bulk has been significantly reduced, as I've explained, and car parking, which was the 3rd point, of 3 spaces has been provided using the existing highways crossover. We've also incorporated additional features. We are adding 2 trees to the front elevation, and have already improved the side boundary with new fencing and planting at the rear of the garden. To conclude, we're not a developer who's going to maximise this site. We want to build a sustainable family home for ourselves and my children. The overall impact of the new design will not be adverse to the street and will in fact improve the visual amenity of the road.
It will be a quality building in terms of both design and materials used, and its sensitive architectural design in conjunction with its reduced size and bulk will be more in keeping with other larger houses in the road. We want a house of high quality and see this as an opportunity to showcase good design with a progressive council that can address and improve the housing stock appropriately and sympathetically.
Thank you very much. Helen, last week, if
Okay,
your
yeah.
observations.
So there's some drawings I just look at along with essentially repeats of what we've got on the screen there, but there's the refused to stay. Okay, so my observations are a number of proposals for this site have been viewed by this committee for the demolition of the existing and replacement with a 5-bedroom property. This committee had no objection to the previous refuse application, which was recorded as down for Officer Grant, but was refused at committee following a call-in. That application is currently the subject of an appeal. This new proposal follows a similar size to the previous application, with it sitting on the same building line as number 14 Townsend Lane, which is approximately 1 metre forward of the existing property's building line. The previous application was double fronted to reduce, was double fronted to reduce bulk and mass to the street frontage. However, this new scheme removes the left-hand projecting gable. The height and roof design remains the same as the previous application. The rear projection also remains the same, but with the removal of the pergola structure previously proposed, therefore reducing the bulk to the rear. The covered side single-storey walkway has been removed, reducing bulk to the street frontage. A pitched roof instead of flat, which was criticised before, has been proposed to the kitchen dining element. Some detailing in the front elevation brickwork and round windows has been included, as this was highlighted as lacking in the previous application. This proposal presents to be more in keeping with the style and character of the area and not so jarring on the eye. Parking provision is once again for 3 cars. 1 tree is to be removed in the rear garden, with a further 3 proposed for planting. Site is in the conservation area but not locally listed. Consider no objection subject to the previous reasons refusal being addressed, provided that there is no loss of amenity to the neighbouring property. Policy 72 by the St Albans District Plan and policy ESD2 of the Harpenden Neighbourhood Planning Affairs.
Thank you very much, Helen. Any comments from councillors on this one? Councillor Butler.
Thank you, and thank you to Mr. Jarvis for coming along. I'm aware of how long this process has been taking. I used to sit on the Plans North, therefore I'm quite more familiar with what you were proposing before. This is an interesting one because of the history. Looking at the reasons for refusal, there's one thing that's not there, and it isn't there. I'm not trying to change what the reason, but it was certainly in my mind at the time, which.
Sorry, we're just slightly
Confused because you declared an interest in this one.
No, I didn't. I declared an interest in it.
I said you knew the applicant on this one.
No.
Right.
Sorry?
You said 16 Townsend Lane, you had an application, you had a declaration because you knew the applicant.
That was right, interest.
Was that?
Right, okay.
Sorry.
That's fine. Sorry. Proceed.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm not sure how much you had. The one point that was in the back of my mind, I appreciate it hadn't come out, and if it's not there, it's not there, of course, was the loss of an eyebrow house, which is quite a distinctive design. And I appreciate there has been one application in the history to try to extend that, and that I don't know whether that was refused or was withdrawn, but so it's clearly probably not very easy to extend and keep the I can understand that.
I could go on, but that's the reason.
That's fine. No,
Away because
that's fine. I'm assuming this is not locally listed.
Yeah, no, it's not.
I do recall the previous application, and I can well see, because I recall the adverse comments of the Plans North Committee about the architectural style, and I wholeheartedly accept that this is a vast improvement, and for which thank you very much to the applicant. What is at the back of my mind, though, and of course this is not a conversation with the applicant, so it's really a question for the chair, is there's an appeal in our previous application.
Yeah.
We don't know what that's going to say. And this is a new application, admittedly better design, which looks odd to try to sort of leapfrog the appeal, because were the appeal to say, may not, were the appeal to say you can't touch that house, then this application would have effectively negated that, which surprises me that whereas ordinarily one will wait the outcome of appeal, see what it says, take into account, and or if you just, what the applicant decided, it's nice to have the approval in principle if that's what happens, and then come up with a better design. It seems odd that our plans, the St Albans planning authority is virtually in a position to make the appeal irrelevant.
I think I'm right in saying that you can apply for as many different planning.
Yeah, no,
can.
Simultaneously.
Yes. And in fact, of course, if you win an appeal, you can then choose which design you do.
Absolutely.
Can I just comment, number 10, which I was involved in, pre my involvement, there was an application went in, it was rejected, went to appeal. Before the appeal was heard, it took 18 months for the appeal. A second application in was accepted and passed. I then bought the site, and my daughter bought the site, and Howard Pease then improved the design of the planning. The plan had gone through, so you can have umpteen applications running.
Councillor
Have you finished, Councillor Butterworth?
I probably had on that. I might come back to this.
I think this is a tricky one because I think I was chair of Plans North at the time. I think, if I'm thinking about the right one, that someone from the Harpenden History Society came along and talked about the eyebrow house, how many have been lost from Harpenden, and how effectively it's a cultural asset, is by and large what they were saying. And the new design here, I think, is more desirable, better looking than the previous design, but one is still left with the question of whether it is appropriate to knock down a house in the conservation area. I mean, if you allow that to happen and build a new one, it's not much of a conservation area, is it? It's not conserving anything. So I think that's the difficulty.
The house is not fit for purpose, in my view. The eyebrow house is not fit for purpose. Have you been into these houses?
No.
You wouldn't want to live in them.
Also, Harpenden Society have actually, in their publication of the spring, their spring newsletter, admitted they lost the argument for the demolition of it.
But yes, I think in any case, I think if that was a previous reason for refusal, so I think it would be covered in a way by our recommendation anyway. If the district council committee considers that that was a significant reason for refusal, then it wouldn't have been addressed because it couldn't physically be addressed.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Councillor Lamb.
Could Councillor Turnbull just explain in greater detail what he means by it's not habitable?
It's a 50s house. The rooms are small and pokey. I haven't been in this one, but I did look at one very similar to this a year or two ago. It's out of date. I mean, we want to be modern, we want to get modern, efficient housing. This is not an efficient house. It's impractical. It's dated. It should be knocked down and replaced, in my view. Simple as that. Simple as that.
Any other comments from councillors?
Well, could I come back?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just on this question of the eyebrow house, there is a technical issue in that although that figured in the discussion of Plans North, it didn't come out in the reason for refusal. That, I suppose, doesn't stop us taking it into account now because it's a new application. And just on Councillor Cousins' comment, yes, the permission is given to demolish houses in the conservation area, but looking at a case basis, some aren't worth preserving, some do have some heritage merit, as this one arguably does. So where do I come out on this? It's a pity to lose an eyebrow house, but you can't say it has to be preserved at all costs. In an extreme case, if the house is falling down, then you'd say accept the inevitable. But I still haven't, I know technically you can make as many applications as you want, but I'm uncomfortable at if I'm making the appeal outcome number 3. And therefore I do find it difficult to come to a decision on this one.
That's totally fair enough. Councillor Hill, did you want to come in?
Yeah.
Comments that you sort of.
No. So I would just want to say that as this has become a topic of discussion, I do live in an eyebrow house in Lyndhurst Drive. But I've taken advice that because they're not listed or it doesn't affect my position to take a view on this one. So I mean, I would just generally say that this is a better scheme than the previous one, although we didn't use it at the time. And so I would don't really have any objections, provided that there's no loss of immunity, as I think. Yeah. So that's
Any other comments? Councillor Lyla.
In terms of saying that the reason for refusal does not cover the issue of it being an eyebrow house, the reasons for refusal does say the proposed replacement building will fail to preserve or enhance the appearance of the conservation area. Is that not therefore referring to it being an eyebrow house? If it said because it is an eyebrow house, that would sort of deal with it. But it just needs to preserve or enhance the appearance of the conservation area.
In which case you just have to take it that it's on the design that's in front of it. Yeah, rather than what it's replacing, because it would surely state it.
I think this is potentially slightly getting lost amongst the weeds. Yeah, I mean, we can put some language in if we feel strongly that eyebrow houses shouldn't be demolished. I think we can put some language in, but I personally think if we start getting into particular architectural styles, we're going to end up having very long meetings.
So I was going to say, do that. You can't predict or you can't take a predictive decision. No, you can't do that.
Councillor Cullen.
Okay, when we were discussing it at the district, which was the planning authority, or is the planning authority, it is the question, does it preserve or enhance the conservation area? That is ultimately the test.
Yeah.
So you've got to really look at it and decide, does that new house preserve or enhance the conservation area? Definitely more so than the previous design.
Councillor Turner.
Well, I would say my reasoning on that point is I think this adds to the street scene of that street, because generally up that road you've got biggish houses, most of it's been redeveloped. It's a street in everyone's mind. There are big houses in that street. This is the exception.
Yeah.
One of the few that hasn't been, there's one other that hasn't been replaced.
Yes.
Councillor Hart.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, yes, I understand that it's one of the eyebrow houses, but it's actually, I agree with Councillor Turnbull, what is proposed is actually more in keeping with the existing street scene.
Yes.
And I have no objection to it.
Any final comments from councillors before I put this to a vote? No. In that case, I'm minded to go with the recommendation as set out. All in favour?
Okay.
Yeah, the
It's agreed.
majority.
I'm abstaining rather than refusing this.
That's fair.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming along, Mr. Gill.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Again, you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but I suspect you have. Well, actually, no, we need to discuss calling on this one, don't we? Oh, no, we don't. We had no objection. Sorry. It's been a long time since I've done one of these meetings. It's been a whole 4 weeks.
I've got to get back to my children.
Thank you
very much.
Feeling our way through the new calling process.
You take me out of these meetings for 4 weeks now. Completely forget what I'm doing.
It does change an awful lot, but no, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Let's back to the beginning now.
Yeah, so we're back to ones we definitely can't call them because
The moment has passed.
the moment has passed. Short of inventing time crunch, we are over. So, page
Page
30.
30.
Application 5/2022 2061 17 Chesterton Avenue.
Okay.
Observations
Yeah.
on this one?
The application stands alone with one other property at the end of the road, overlooking and bordering green space. There are no overlooking properties or those that could be affected. Planning permission was granted in 2019 for a very similar scheme, but that permission has now lapsed. Fundamentally, the extension proposals are the same as the approved scheme, apart from some minor changes. A porch is added to the front, a study area is removed, and there's removal of front extensions to bedroom 2 and 3, and I say consider no objection. Just see here that they've sort of cross marked the spots where they're at the very end of this section of Chesterton Avenue that looks out over the amenity space, the open space just there. Again, just highlighting the location. I think that was it.
See the previous one location? Oh, no, was there another one you skipped over?
No, that was the
No.
next
That's the next
application.
one.
That's
Yeah, the next one's Catherine Mornington House, or
Oh,
Catherine
yeah,
Mornington
yeah.
School, in fact.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I've got the drawings if you want to look.
We want the drawings. Any comments from councillors? I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All in favour?
Okay, that's agreed.
Okay, 5/2022/1967 at Catherine Warrington School. Your observation as well.
Yeah, so I
Observation
mean,
on this one.
essentially, the proposal mirrors that which was withdrawn in July on a site location planning accuracy. All aspects of the proposal remain the same, so a new 3G artificial grass pitch sited on the existing school playing field, alongside the retention of 3 existing grass football pitches, 1 grass rugby pitch, and an athletics track and a cricket facility for which the school already had a community use agreement, the sports hall and other sports facilities. And then essentially it kind of goes on and on with other various things. I mean, we're more than you'd like, if you'd like me to go through the whole process, then
Yeah,
I'm
no,
more
I think-
happy.
I think councillors will have read the detail.
But
If you're going to the whole lot, can I go away and come back in?
So I think sort of unless we'll obviously, it was only in July, so I think this is quite fresh in our minds as to what they were proposing. So ultimately, the fact that it was only withdrawn on a technicality due to site location plan, I have used the wording before, which was no objection, provided that there'll be no significant detrimental impact on the surrounding area. However, there
Just-
may be different views.
Just to note on that, Heather, there was some additional language in our recommendation, which in particular with regards to the floodlighting and potential impact on the green belt, which I think it would be useful to
To
mirror.
repeat.
Councillor Palmer.
Yes, because I was going to raise that. I believe some of the residents, particularly Common Lane, probably have logged objections on the district website, and they certainly have concerns. I think this particular concern, and I seem to recall I probably voted for refusal before, but a low voice, because the fact is the original planning permission had condition that no floodlighting would be permitted, and I'm not happy that floodlighting will be permitted, in fact, particularly on residents of Common Lane.
Thank you, Councillor Palmer. Any other comments from councillors on this one? Councillor Cousin.
So I agree with Councillor Farmer's point. It is extremely frustrating when you have a planning condition and then just a very short period of time later, you know, as an application goes in for directly opposite of what was agreed. Is there anything, has there been discussion, you can get certain types of fencing, can you? Because clearly footballs get bashed against such fencing. Is there anything in condition about low noise fencing, which I believe you can get?
I seem to recall there was.
Okay, fine.
So it says here, the fencing will be see-through mesh, therefore no impact, 4.5 metres high for the perimeter and gates, with the spectator area being 1.2 metres high, twin bar rebound fence.
Yeah, if you look at the bit directly above that where it says fencing
Oh,
connected to
nice,
support
yeah.
posts with I'm not going to try and say that,
Neoprene isolators.
which reduces rattling when the ball hits the post. There are things you can do.
So I mean, sort of, there's obviously the mention here in relation to the lighting.
Yeah.
That it sort of fulfills the various requirements of what they class as Class 2 club level football, which is under the FA and Sport England requirements. Accessory floodlighting will be able to provide half-pitch switching and therefore will be able to reduce lighting for cross-field play. Type of light suggested to be installed will have a flat glass and will have rear louvers and alterable side baffles, which reduces spill of levels of light, which is required in order to respect the impact on the residential property sited 90 metres away, and also on the ecological impact on any nearby trees. All lighting will be operated on time switches, and previous planning permission was granted with the condition that no floodlighting will be permitted, as Councillor Palmer mentioned.
It still annoys me that they've got that condition. That was a very clear condition of permission for the school.
Councillor Leiper, I believe you had your hand up.
Thank you. I agree with you two. I in reading and going through this, if I'm correct, is the point of the against floodlighting was because it impacted on the green belt. And I haven't read anything anywhere on here which says that it no longer impacts on the green belt. I understand that the lighting and the fencing are better, but at no point does it say, and therefore does not impact on the green belt. So therefore,
that was the reason for the condition.
yeah. And I think it undermines planning process if you put in a condition which then 3 years later, you just this little bit. So,
Thank you, Councillor Leiper. Any other comments from councillors on this one?
Sorry, still over the point. I just wonder if there's something around lighting and the timing of its use. You know, sometimes if a premises is applying for a restaurant or something, we don't really worry about the licensing because that's a separate thing. But, you know, is there some condition that Berkhamsted School has got one, no floodlighting after 7 p.m, which does allow for after school football in the winter, but, you know, doesn't, I don't know, you know, change the character of the area at 7:30 at night or something.
So, I mean, I think that's slightly covered off by no significant detrimental impact, in particular with regards to floodlighting. As in, we're saying we don't want there to be a detrimental impact from floodlighting. We can make that more explicit if there is better language that we can use. Sorry,
You could just say, for lighting impact late in the evening.
Yeah.
Just looking here, actually, the proposed opening hours, Monday to Friday are 8 until 10 at night. Saturdays 8 till 6 and Sunday and bank holidays 8 till 6. So, I mean, it doesn't exclusively refer to the lighting, but the fact that they're proposing for it to be potentially open as late as 10 at night, that does mean lighting potentially all year round, doesn't it?
It would be very unusual to have a foot switch open till 10 and the lights go off at 7.
Yeah.
And the red lights on 8 o'clock in the morning.
In the winter raises the issue again, I think it's in the green belt.
Yeah.
And I can't get it damaged.
I don't know, you know, yeah, exactly. 9:45 at night, you're just going to bed, and still you've got the light outside and the noise as well.
But it's also because you're in green belt, it's potential like pollution for the wildlife and anything with the surrounding, because it runs, their land runs into the countryside.
Either very near to a football pitch and a tennis club, both of which have lighting, or pitch not every night of the week, until 10 o'clock. It's just fact of life. I don't know whether there's a planning condition that has to go up at 10, but it does. And I move to the problem, as it were, rather than the problem coming to me.
Councillor Turnbull?
Are the tennis courts in the green belt or
Yes,
not?
both in the green belt.
I think that's in the green belt, haven't we?
Tennis is a little
Yeah,
more subdued,
yeah.
isn't it, than football, where you've got people shouting.
Yeah, are we able to
Twenty
refuse
Talking about the lights, but yeah.
Yeah.
to refuse it on the grounds that they haven't conformed to one of the area conditions? No
Oh.
floodlighting.
We can do whatever we like. We're a committee that aren't bound by previous decisions that we've made. We should probably take into account previous decisions we've made, but we're not. If we've made previous decisions, no reason why we can't undo that previous decision.
I to recall someone saying not long ago that you can make as many planning applications as you like.
Yeah, quite.
I can certainly recall when this came before. I know I'm pretty sure I voted against.
Councillor Hill.
I'm quite happy to to go over the points I made last time about, because I was in support of the application. I'm sympathetic to 10 o'clock. I think 10 o'clock might be a little bit too late, Monday to Friday. I think anything 7, 8 o'clock, I think is acceptable. Anything, yeah, anything lights on until 7, 8, 9. I think I'm fine with 10. That 9 to 10 o'clock is when a lot of people do tend to go to bed. You know, a lot of people go to bed, including me at the time. But there is also a very big positive social impact on having a 3G pitch for the school, for young people. I mean, this could be used by cults, could be used by adults. And on the specific lighting on Greenbelt, I'm less concerned about because the school is now built. And if you drive past now, you'll see lights on, including outside. I know this is of a different scale than the floodlights, but, you know, because it might affect people's sleep more than just, you know, security lights or whatever. But I am quite sympathetic to floodlights at the time, say 8, 9 o'clock.
It may well be they can't afford the electricity, so.
I think that's a conversation for a separate issue.
I think I would probably agree with Councillor Hill. There is public benefit, but for me, 9 o'clock would be the latest I would want to see people playing on there.
So to give my personal view, I think the recommendation we had a very long and very similar discussion last time on this application. And I think the recommendation we came to last time, I was satisfied with, because I think it does highlight the potential problems for district. But I think personally that the positive from having this project would outweigh the potential negative, unless that negative is so significant that the district council decide that there's a material planning reason why it can't go ahead. That's my personal view. Any other comments from councillors?
I would be fine with adding, you know, where we say no objection provided. This is what we said last time.
Yeah.
No objection provided that there will be no significant detrimental impact on the surrounding area, particularly with regards to floodlighting and any potential impact on the green belt. If we include something, and it's particularly at late at night. So
yeah.
And could we even add in with a rider? We would suggest a cut-off time of 9 o'clock is imposed as a condition.
I'm not sure we've ever suggested
We could do it for
a condition before.
The committee's concerned that noise and light later than 9 PM would be disruptive to, unduly disruptive to local residents.
I see no harm in us being specific and not suggested.
I think that so long as there's no, Heather, I'm looking at you now. So
Yeah, no, absolutely no. There's, I mean, this is the right opportunity for us to flag up that, you know, the proposed opening hours.
Yeah.
Is,
lovely. Just wanted to check the word about to, you know, put our foot in the
no.
So yeah, with that additional language then, about the committee feels that 9 o'clock should be considered the cut-off to avoid unduly impacting on local amenity through noise and lighting, something to that effect. Probably worded in slightly more coherent English than I can.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I used the word along the lines of the committee would welcome.
Yeah, that's
restricting.
But, yeah. With that additional language, I will put this to a vote. With the recommendation, no objection. All in favour?
Okay, that's agreed.
Lovely. We've considered the next one already, and the next one. On C5 2022 2102, that's 84 Lower Luton Road. Your observation when
Okay, yeah, here we are. We're at 84 Luton Road now, or Lower Luton Road, in fact. Okay, the proposal is to convert the garage into habitable accommodation, along with 2 front bay windows to the study and family room. Demolish a small detached rear store and extend at the rear to 2 stories to expand the ground floor accommodation. To expand the bedroom size with the addition of another bedroom, totaling 4, along with a bathroom. At the rear, garden slopes upwards towards Salisbury Road, therefore reducing the impact on properties to the rear. There were a pair of relatively new builds to one side with their footprint extending further back than the proposed two-storey rear extension, which is stepped in to take into account the 45-degree visibility zone for number 86 Lower Luton Road. Despite the loss of garage, there appears to be ample parking on frontage, with the whole frontage over to permeable surfacing. No tree works and not conservation area. Consider no objection, subject to no loss of amenity to the neighbouring properties. Policy 69 and 72 of the district plan and policies ESD 2 of the Department of Neighbourhood Plan Affairs. Yeah. Did you want to see the drawings?
No, that's a technical question.
Yes.
And I'll point to the drawing and I can make the point.
Okay.
I know there's a guidance note from St Albans on the 45-degree angle. It's drawn here as if there's a flat window, whereas of course it's a conservatory. So
It's-
how do you draw the 45 degrees?
Those-
Is this actually in accordance with guidance?
Yes, so the 45-degree angle is taken from the first floor window.
Oh, the first floor. Okay. Okay, fine.
It's sort of generally deemed that you would have some form of close board fencing or screening at first floor, sorry, ground floor level, hence why the 45-degree angle is taken from the first floor window.
Thank you.
Thanks, President.
I think it's reasonable.
Lovely. Any other comments? Mind to go the recommendation on my side?
That's agreed.
Lovely. 5/2022, sorry. 5/2022, 2117 at 109A Tree Lane.
Okay, the proposal is to increase the roof ridge height, I'll just move on, so there's that one, and if I just show that on there, it helps. To increase the roof ridge height by 600 millimetres of the main element of the house, not extending over the garage, to provide an additional bedroom, which will total 5, a dressing room and an ensuite. The neighbouring property appears to have extended in recent times with the ridge line a marginal amount higher than this proposal. There is a garage and a minimum of 2 off-street parking spaces on the frontage. The proposal does not appear to cause a detrimental impact on the vicinity. Consider no objection, subject to no loss of amenity to the neighbouring properties and no detrimental impact on the street scene. Policy 69 and 72 of the district plan and policy ESD 2 of the Department of Neighbourhood Plan Affairs. So actually this is quite a useful image here to show that they are at the end of that line of houses with a garden beside them, whatever that road is.
This truck.
Is it?
It's from the other end of this one.
I think that if you go back to the previous one, I think the roof looks slightly disproportionately large, but I think I think it's fine.
Councillor Butterworth.
I mean, on a similar point, it's partly because there's no perspective. You don't get the sense that the roof.
That's true.
Actually, that drawing makes it look quite ugly.
Yeah.
Because it's a high roof line. It's a pity there isn't some last impression 3D.
We haven't asked impression.
No, I think if we had, I would have shared it. I think what we've got there is unfortunately the level of the drawings that we have.
It looks slightly less ugly on the actual paper version. Not much, but.
And sorry, how does it relate to the house next door? It's 109.
Yeah, so I can, would you like me to go to, I can go to the street scene.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
This register. I was looking. Yeah. Do that at all. Okay, so this actually doesn't help this image overly because the house to the left has actually been increased because these photographs were taken in 2016. So that's said property there.
No, we're not saying.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I've seen it, yeah.
Sorry, I need to
I
cut
think
out.
Yeah, it doesn't, present the plans.
I mean, the extra bulk is to the right rather than the left, isn't it?
It's okay.
Oh, the camera's fair enough.
I think it. Oh, never mind.
Right.
It's kind of by itself from memory. It's like basically. kept to the left and there's nothing to the right.
So this is sort of misleading because this house here has actually extended.
Yes, that's not properly two stories.
Yeah,
Yes, it's extended quite a lot. hasn't it?
Yes, you've always got it's like semi-detached
Yes.
terrace, that kind of
Yes,
thing, and they're
yes.
quite now. There is taller than that, if not slightly taller.
Yes, it's quite a lot.
it's quite a bit taller than that because
It's
of
quite a
well,
bit
and
taller,
in
yes.
the images that I had in my review here. Yeah, no, it's this is where I'm awkward. Flipping between the two. Yeah, you can see it's actually quite dramatically different property to the left.
Yeah.
Are there three lux windows on the roof?
Of what the new proposal? Yeah, yes.
I think the actual plans are stuck up there somewhere.
They're roof lights, yeah, so they are, yeah. Oh, I've gone mad.
Any other comments from councillors? No. Are we minded to go to the recommendation on the vote?
That's agreed.
Okay. On to 5/2022, 2038 at 17 Park Hill.
Okay, the property is the last in the row of characterful terraced houses, is locally listed and in the conservation area. The existing floor plan layout is relatively narrow and extends rearwards, as do all other properties in the row. The proposal is to extend the existing kitchen rearwards over the footprint of the existing store and separate external cupboard and to the side to create a more open plan living space. A gap along the side of the boundary is being retained. At first floor level, it is proposed to make internal layout changes with the addition of a small side extension partially over the footprint of the ground floor extension to create another bedroom. There is also a proposal of adding a further bedroom in the roof, which will total 4, with each window to the front and a dormer window to the rear. Due to the property's location with the neighbouring property to the side of the first floor extensions being set a distance away and a good gap, if I can show you that, and a good gap to the boundary, there appears to be little impact on number 16 Park Hill. A little impact on them. Number 16 Park Hill have received planning permission for a similar scale single-storey roof extension, which sits in line with this property's proposal. There are currently 2 off-street parking spaces provided on the site, which is inadequate for the proposed bedrooms on the site. Like I said, consider express concern that there are insufficient parking provision provided on the site for the proposed number of bedrooms, versus 40 and 72 of the district planning plans. Did you want to see the drawings for this?
If we want to do the drawings? No. Anyone want to see the drawings? No. Any councillor comments on this one? Councillors?
I think we just agree with the recommendation. I mean, it's unusual for a terraced house to have parking. It's also, they've got 2 spaces. It's right by the bus stop. You can walk into town, so it's a sustainable location, but we tend to mention parking, don't we?
Yeah.
Mention it and.
Pretty tricky parking along
Yeah.
there, to say the least of it.
We don't mention it, no one will.
No, but effectively what you're saying is it's quite unusual that it has any parking provision.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways I just accept it. I wouldn't even mention the parking in that location, but I don't object if we mention the parking.
Any other comments? All in favour of the recommendation?
Okay, that's agreed.
5/2022, 1974 at 5 and 6 East Common.
Okay, this proposal is for amendments stroke extensions to the 2 properties. The proposals differ for each property. Properties in the road of East Common have undergone a number of changes in varying guises with no uniformity in style and look. Frontages of these properties is directly onto Harpenden Common, with pedestrian and vehicular access gained from the rear of the properties. The site is in the conservation area and the properties are locally listed. Number 5, East Common is proposing the most changes aesthetically. Number 6, East Common just proposing a modest addition to the side at first floor level to accommodate a shower room to the bedroom 2, which is linked to number 5. Number 5's proposals are to extend over the footprint of the existing elements at the ground floor level to the boundary of number 6 to provide a more open planning living accommodation. And at first floor, a linked extension with number 6 to create a shower room and an extension to bedroom 3. And at attic level, a modest Velux addition to create storage space. Save for the replacement porch to the front to match the design with number 6. All proposals are to the rear of the properties, which are a long distance from the properties out opposite in the road. There's no change to the number of bedrooms on the site. No free works are proposed. There's no objections subject to the appropriate design and use of materials on these locally listed buildings in the conservation area. Policies 69, 72, 85 and 87 of the district plan, and policies ESD1 and ESD2 of the Harpenden neighbourhood plans.
Yes, it doesn't matter. Is there a particular reason why there's one application covering two properties?
I assume they've just decided to do it in tandem. I mean, I can show you on the drawings, but the extension that they're proposing to the shower room is literally matches either side. So I think they decided to do it at the same time to, I suppose, make it easier for building works.
I'd also note that in the past, where they haven't come in tandem, we've ended up refusing both when, if the other one had come in at the same time, we would have accepted. So I actually welcome this as a way of two houses doing something that makes room there is. Councillor Coven.
Thank you. I think anything on the back is completely fine because you don't see it. You just go down Cromwell's Road, don't you? And it's just on the left. You don't see it, but it is very, very visible from the front. So I just wonder if you could just
Want to look at the
recap what you said about what is at the front.
Yes,
that's
of
the
course.
only thing that I'm.
Yeah, no, that's okay. So I mean, I can show you.
Yeah.
So ultimately, all that they're proposing to do at the front is to put a small porch. On
Which matches what 6 already got.
yeah. So let me just see if I can find those drawings.
The front of them is actually one of the nicest aspects of it.
Yeah.
No, this particular drawings are clear. It's so hard to work out. So here we go. So I'll just bring it down so that you can see. Annoyingly, though, they don't actually show the essentially this little porch here. That's what we're looking to do. So this just shows there what the proposals are. They're looking to change.
So does that have it?
So that's the, so that's for number 6.
I'm fine. As long as it covers it's nothing to
Yes, that's fine, yes. And then essentially that's the auxiliary for the next.
No, exactly. Yes, yeah.
Yes, and that's the next door house.
Yeah.
Again, the porch like that.
Any other comments from council? No. I'll put it to a vote. All in favour of the recommendation?
I think that's it, read.
Lovely. 5/2022/197 does not meet the criteria. So on to 5/2022/205/18 Berrywick.
So 18 Berrywick. Property is located on the end of this particular section of the street, which is characterised by open plots and varied styles and designs of property. The proposal is to extend at ground floor level to the rear to expand the kitchen area, and at first floor level with the side extension to provide an ensuite to bedroom 1. But the biggest change is to the roof form, which is to be changed from a gable end to one side and a cat side to the other into a more European styled hipped roof. A number of changes to the window sizes and positions are also proposed across the scheme. The garage is to be converted into a store with a boot room and laundry to the rear. Touches of hardwood cladding are also proposed across the property. A new vehicle crossover is to be installed, creating a carriage-style driveway which has ample parking for the property, not conservation area, and no tree works are proposed. Consider no objection.
Comments from councillors?
Looks fine.
Looks fine. Good plot. Lovely. All in favour of the recommendation?
Okay, that's agreed.
5/2022/2067 does not meet the criteria required for consideration. 5/2022/2074 at 25 Appens Close is the application I referred to earlier, which was taken on delegated authority, therefore I don't think we need to discuss that.
No, we can't.
Lovely. So on to 5/2022/2083 at number 9 Birch Way.
Okay, so number 9 Birch Way, property is one half of a pair of semi-detached dwellings built in 2015 on appeal. The proposal is to extend at 2-storey level along the almost full depth of the property to expand the downstairs living space at first floor to create an additional bedroom, 5 in total, along with an ensuite and other internal reconfigurations. There was a 1 metre gap along the boundary with number 7 Birch Way. However, there's the introduction of a large flank wall along this side with the addition of a number of full-length windows at ground floor level and a substantial window to bedroom 2 at the first floor level, all of which could cause overlooking and loss of amenity to number 7 Birch Way. The road naturally slopes down towards number 7 Birch Way, therefore exacerbating this issue. There is off-street parking provision for 2 cars only, no tree works and not conservation area. And I've said consider recommend refusal. The proposed 2-storey side extension presents as being overly dominant, creating a possible unacceptable level of overlooking and loss of amenity to number 7 Birch Way. There is also insufficient parking provision for the number of bedrooms proposed on the site. Policies 40, 69 and 72 of the district plan and policies ESD1 and ESD2 of the Harpenden neighbourhood plan. So it does, unfortunately, there wasn't an up-to-date image, but it just sort of kind of sets the scene as to sort of what the road is like. And then this is, strangely, the satellite image is up to date, but the street scene isn't up to date. So this is actually the footprint of the pair of semis. So you can see along the left-hand side, just here, which is where the extension is going to be. Cause quite some detrimental impact. Would you like to look at the drawings to see
Yes, I think
what I'm rambling on about?
Thank you.
Well, there's lots of windows on the side of the building facing the adjoining property, I think.
Yes.
4 windows.
This will help you to understand and no map existing, which will help.
I'm thinking we might
context.
That's the plan.
I spent my 100 I figure I'm sharing the meeting.
Interestingly, actually, I was able to print off an objection off the district council website for this particular application.
Yeah, it is that.
Does it mention anything we haven't covered?
No, not really.
Just, I'm happy with the other recommendation.
Yeah, so they make sort of mention of huge windows, unacceptable intrusion on their privacy, scaling massive of first floor development, causing impact on the loss of light.
No. Any other comments from council? In that case, I'm conscious that Councillor Butler is still looking at the papers, but I'm minded to put this to a vote if you're ready to vote, Roger.
Yep.
Okay, all in favour of the recommendation?
Good. Are we happy with that exact wording, or were you wanting any strengthening at all?
I'm personally happy with the wording. 5/2022, I will go through the 2 that don't meet the criteria or recommend all of that. 5/2022/1414 do not meet the criteria at number 14. It needs clear love number 14. This application does not meet the criteria, neither does 5/2022/2025. neither does.
Oh, sorry, you've jumped ahead a little bit.
Oh, sorry,
I'm so
yes,
sorry.
I forgot.
Yeah, so 26 Park Avenue North is an application that Councillor Butterworth has requested that we do actually take a look at.
Yes,
So obviously I haven't had an opportunity to put together observations and things for this, but I have taken the opportunity to print off the drawings for this and highlight highlights on here as to where the concerns are. It's actually just here. So planning permission has already been granted for a new dwelling on this particular site, and they've now come back with a fresh application solely for the construction of the swimming pool and the plant equipment. They've just highlighted on the drawing here the location of the said condenser unit and heat pump. Source heat pump. Right, so here we go. Yeah, so the proposal, obviously, with the swimming pool there, is to enhance the environmental credentials of the new pool. We have proposed an air source heat pump to provide a sustainable source of heating and to help reduce the owner's carbon emissions. There's also a proposed comfort cooling system for the main house, which would allow the occupants to cool the building during the summer months. Both these systems will require a condenser unit to be located outside the property. Considering the aesthetic value of the property, we propose to locate the condenser units away from the house in the far end of the rear garden. So on one of the drawings going around, I've just highlighted the said location where these air source heat pumps are.
which is right in the boundary.
So there have been letters of objection for number 28 Park Avenue North. There's been sort of 3 different bites of the cherry with various parts that clearly they have found as time's ticked on. But yeah, this was basically mooting the idea of mooting, or say, the idea of what the district council have done in previous application for an air source heat pump, where they have commissioned their own consultant to do an analysis on the noise.
Councillor Lyman.
Thank you. Is this the one that was before?
No.
This is
No,
another one.
totally new. Yeah, we've not had one.
But there was that similar issue, wasn't it?
There was a similar one which was in Park Avenue.
Yes.
It was at 25. Yeah.
Should I speak to this one as I?
Yes, if you consider it.
Yes, the bit of a history with air source heat pumps on Thames North, in that there were several calling, and officers seemed reasonably relaxed that it would be regulated by environmental department after the event if it caused excessive noise. However, I did notice that very recently at 25 Park Avenue, an application for an air source heat pump in the garden, in the middle of the garden, so affecting neighbours both sides equally, was refused by St Albans officers, not I think the planning committee, but officers, who commissioned their own expert, who totally disagreed with the applicant's expert as to the noise that would be produced. And this is all quite technical. So it seems that St Albans officers are now being more critical and proactive on these things, and I suggest rightly so. So it seemed to me we should at least consider this one, because there's another air source heat pump in the garden, and also a cooling fan. And one of the objectors has highlighted there's a contradiction in the application documents as to where these things are going to be sourced. One document says one thing, another says another. Now, there are the technical report here from the applicant. That doesn't mean it's the final word. You know, St Albans officers may disagree with it, may commission their own report. We're not experts. I'm not. It's difficult to assess that sort of report. But it seemed to me given that we're talking about presumably a substantial entrance, heat pump, because substantial pool, which takes a lot of energy to heat, and a cooling system for the house as well, that actually we can't recommend refusal. I'm not suggesting that because we can't assess it, but we should draw attention well, provided there's no effect on immunity, or to say that we positively recommend that the council look at the sound and if possible effect on neighbours. We should say something, just to lay down a marker.
Thank you, Councillor Westwood. Any other comments from councillors on?
I'd be happy to have something along the lines of subject to no loss of amenity caused by the lodge heat pumps or whatever, or 2 heat pumps or something, just to draw attention, or whatever it is, 2 or 3. Yeah.
And as an aside, are there no national guidelines on decibel levels or whatever coming out of these units? I thought I had read something about some government guidelines somewhere.
I think there are, but there's room for experts to differ.
It is.
And where do you measure them from? That's the part of the problem. And it's relative to the background noise, and how do you assess that? Yeah. Right.
Any other thoughts from council? So personally, I would be minded towards a recommendation along the lines of, whilst the committee would not normally consider an application of this nature, we know that there is potential for amenity impacts on neighbouring properties from the plant machinery, I think is the technical terms, whatever we're calling it.
Yeah.
And we would therefore notice, and we would welcome that planning officers consider this as part of their recommendation, something almost like that, the sort of thing that we're looking for.
I'd be a bit more specific where you talked about machinery, talk about air source heat pump and coolant machinery.
Yeah. Whatever the specific language is that describes the 2 pieces of kit. All in favour of the resolution on those lines?
Okay, that's great. So there is actually a particular policy in the district plan that I can use, which is for noise generating uses. I'll be using that one.
There may be some wording in the Freedom 25 which is relevant. I don't know.
I can certainly have a look.
Yeah, we can come up with more specific wording afterwards.
Yeah.
We have this direction.
I'll do the research and I'll
Okay. I'm not suggesting a wholesale change, there may be
small, yeah.
5/2022 2114 is not the criteria for for consideration. So on to 5/2022 2175.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
2 Milford Hill.
Okay, so proposal is to extend across the full width of the property at ground floor level, extending rearwards by 3.5 metres and at first floor level across 2/3 of the width to provide an additional bedroom, 3 in total. Therefore, taking into account the 45-degree visibility zone of number 4 Milford Hill. The property sides onto the tennis court straight playground at Swansea Wood Primary School, so no issues with impact up to that side. There's parking provision for 2 cars off street, no tree works and not conservation area. Consider no objection, subject to the loss of amenity number 4 Milford Hill, policy 72 of district plan and policies ESD 1 and ESD 2 of the Harpenden Neighbourhood Planning Affairs. Yeah, so we can looking to propose.
Any comments from councillors? Councillor Tom.
Thank you, Chairman. I realise it's possibly not easy for us to refuse this, but I'm a bit concerned about that wall, which I've seen on the plan, right in the boundary line, being looked at from the windows of the other semi. Except it's only 1 story high, but looking at the plan, it looked pretty awful looking at a wall like that.
Let's have a look at the plan. I'm asking that's a council member.
I think I'm right, it's the one.
This probably that section there. But it's
It's just a solid wall right on the boundary, isn't it?
Yeah. I can definitely see what you mean.
Question is, for a start, how did they manage to build it without encroaching on the neighbour's land?
That's not a planning matter, but yes.
It's a party wall.
No doubt, no doubt. All the scaffolding for the roof.
Yeah, but to be fair, you can, like, when my upstairs neighbour did something, you can get permission to whack scaffolding on someone else's land. You need to ask, but
Might be refused.
in that case, it'd be difficult for them to build it.
Is there any wording we can come up with on this, or is it a fact of life we've got to live with it?
I think subject to no loss of amenities sort of covers.
Okay.
I mean, looking at the plan, no. On the ground floor, it's not up against the boundary. But yeah, I think that's right. But the slight overhang of the roof.
Yeah.
Which touches.
Well, I admit, I admit there was a bit of land, but you know what I mean, it's virtually.
It's not still, it's big enough for a brickie to stand on to build walls.
I was at a house the other day and I happened to notice that's what has happened next door some time ago. I said to myself, the eaves are overhanging the boundary line.
No, I mean, I personally think it's covered by no loss of immunity, but
Happy.
all in favour of the recommendation.
That's agreed.
5/2022/2131 at 18 Harpenden Rise.
Okay, yeah. The property is detached and sited at the end of a row of properties with a private access road off the main adopted road. The proposal is to convert the existing garage into a home office and conversion of the rear conservatory into a brick building with a raised decking to the side with steps down into the garden. A detached double garage is also proposed to be sited directly in front of the property at the end of the access road with the provision of 2 parking spaces in front. The Old Bell Public House garden stroke open spaces to the side of the proposed raised decking, therefore no overlooking into residential windows. Consider no objection.
Thank you. Heather, any comments from councillors on this one?
Slightly odd thing to do. I respect, because that approach in front of the house would normally be common ownership, but I presume this is actually a private ownership, otherwise they couldn't be applying.
Well, you could apply.
Well, you couldn't, it wouldn't be realistic.
Wouldn't be able to build it.
Yeah, if you look at the plan, Roger, it does that plan, the last plan, there's a dotted line, which the assumption is it's private land.
Yeah.
I must admit, that was my concern initially as well.
I think that's the line of the sort of the boundary ownership line, isn't it? That.
You've had
Can you
to.
go back to the previous?
Okay.
Can you show, where is the double garage? Going to be
assume
built?
that-
So here.
Why there's 2 round bushes?
Right up in that, where the 2 bushes are.
There's a bit of a feeling of overdevelopment.
Yeah, I agree.
Just little infills like that are fairly tight anyway, aren't they?
Yeah, I'm sorry, the block plan, start location plan does have the red line that shows the frontage is private. I mean, they're built like that. That's the appearance. It's a bit odd. It is, and then it's privately owned in front, accept that, but it's a bit odd putting a garage on the road. It alters the visual.
Slightly
For
odd
everyone.
regulations, isn't it?
I mean, when I looked at it, my own reaction was, I don't like it.
Not suggest something to them, but the reality is you do the garage conversion without needing to put in a new garage. If you just put parking spaces there, which would solve all of this problem with the street sync.
It might be that they require the garage for storage.
Well, quite, but my point is, if you're looking at a garage as a garage rather than if you're looking at a garage as an outhouse. And I take the point on the, it will look odd.
It's not for everyone. It's not just a.
I think a particular double garage would look a bit odd. Maybe if you had room for a single, but
Any, any opinions from councillors on whether it's sufficiently odd that we should offer something stronger than no objection? Councillor
I think we should definitely express concern. Maybe we do stronger than that.
I mean, that's your plan, is that one, it not only shows the garage, but it shows proposed parking in front of the garage for 2 cars.
Yeah.
Yes.
Both ways. And they've got some more parking as well.
Yeah.
Between the proposed garage and the house.
No, that's attained planting.
Oh, plenty, oh, sorry, I apologise.
Okay.
I've got my reading glasses very close. Right,
If
okay.
it helps, I did as well, but the computer is here, which means I have an advantage.
Okay.
Express concern.
Do we know what the garage is going to look like?
You do? It's sort of a bit of a box affair.
Looks very much like a garage.
Not going to be particularly attractive. It's going to be.
My concern is it's going to look pretty ugly. It's,
Yes.
it's almost a third too big for that space.
So I think, to summarise, our concern, whatever the recommendation is that it's an overdevelopment of the plot, with the double garage as an overdevelopment of the plot, and the impact that the double garage would have on the street scene, and potentially from that, the amenity of neighbouring properties. Is there any language that we'd like in other than that before we get into the weeds of recommendations? Okay. I will, as has been suggested to me in the past, I will start from the most severe recommendation possible and work my way down. So who would be in favour of recommendation of refusal on this basis? It's
Fairly unanimous,
that's
isn't
the
it? So,
majority.
okay, so it's a recommend refusal. And do you want me to relate it solely to the double garage element? Because obviously there are different parts to this
I think the rest,
proposal, raised decking and all those sorts of things.
the rest of it, I have absolutely no objection to at all.
Okay.
It's merely the rather incongruous garage. Oh, and because we are in falling
Territory,
deadline,
yeah.
I need to ask if we would like to call this in. My personal opinion would be I don't think we should be calling that in, but
It doesn't look lots.
in that case, I don't. think
Okay,
we-
so that's agreed that no call-in will be initiated.
Yep. 5/2022/1979 does not meet the criteria required, so on to 5/2022/2173 at 5 Bloomfield Road.
Okay, proposal is at ground floor level to extend along the depth of the property with an additional 3-metre element to the sides of number 7 Bloomfield Road to create an open plan living space. There is currently a small lean-to element to the side. At first floor is proposed to expand the size of the bedrooms along with the addition of 2 en-suites. No additional bedrooms are proposed. There already appears to be accommodation in the second floor with a toilet detailed on the existing floor plans, but this is confirmed by the addition of a full ensuite and a flat roof dormer to the rear to provide greater head height. The gap to the boundary of number 3 is retained with the inclusion of a low-level brick wall with metal railings proposed, although this will offer no screening. The road slopes sharply towards, slopes sharply upwards, therefore any possible effect on number 3 is exacerbated, although this would be minimal due to no overlooking windows and the stepped-in nature of the roof line of the rear extension. Consider no objection, subject to no loss of amenity to number 3 Bloomfield Road, policy 69 and 72 of the district plan and policy ESD2 of the Harpenden Neighbourhood Planning Affairs.
Any comments from councillors on this?
Okay, we said plans.
It's ground floor extension.
Um,
On the side, sorry.
yeah, so it's the side and there is actually a part 2-storey.
But it must not just be ground level, because we wouldn't be considering it if it was just.
So it's probably quite useful. Show, councillor Butterworth wanted to see this. No, it could be quite useful as well, just to show what the existing is like. That's the photo.
Just wondering whether the house on the right has done something similar already. I don't know, you can just kind of see a little bit of.
Let me go to
slight
that.
accent.
Well, it's done something, hasn't it?
Yeah. We are.
So, to come out of one to go into another, unfortunately. So the one to the other side has certainly done something to the side, sort of garage wise, but there's nothing evident to show. Oh, there is actually, you can see there at the back,
Yeah.
first floor level, just
Yeah.
about here.
That garage.
But there's a reason they put it at the back.
But it's just this feeling of kind of whether or not there's footprints, so, the impact on.
Yeah, could you go down, go down on the car? It's tall.
It is, yeah, quite a steep hill.
It's been quite a long way back. These are the elevations. If there is
There is. Existing and the proposed there.
Quite busy.
Yes. In my sort of thing was, I was just wondering about a terracing effect.
Yes.
Although from this angle, it maybe makes the gap looks a
It
looks
looks,
a bit
it
bigger
looks a
than
bit bigger from
than
this
it
one.
did from the
From,
previous,
from
yeah.
the sort of flat
But
one,
when
it
you look
looked
at it
like
like that-
potential for it. But I think when you,
Looks like it's still being metered because.
but I think, yes, I think when you, when you looked at the other view and you looked up, actually, I think there is
Yeah, I think it's all
quite,
right.
I think it's all right, I think there is. There is room.
My only concern would be whether A, amenity, and B, whether it looks incongruous on the street scene if it gets too much closer to that.
Well,
That's an artist's impression from.
But it's quite it's quite variable on Bromfield Road, isn't it? It doesn't have a very specific street scene.
No.
And that ground floor extension is to invest really helps a bit. Not great.
I mean, it's tricky to tell, but I'm not quite sure. By the looks of the,
This is 2009.
it is, I'm not quite sure. The fact that there's some gates along the side here almost implies that there is actually space to drive down the side of the house.
There is. Judging by the fact that
Yeah.
car is,
Yeah, there is, isn't there? Look,
that's wide as the gap in front of it. By the
Yes.
I think the office recommendation
Yeah.
covers it, doesn't it?
All in favour?
Okay, that's agreed.
Lovely. By 2022, 18, what we take?
Yeah, I have.
1877 at 63 Atlan's Close. Your opposite.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, right. Bear with me a second. Let's go back to.
I won't take part this one.
Is this the one where you know the applicant?
Right, okay, 63 Outlands Close. The proposal is for a grey powder coated aluminium cantilever framed canopy with a polycarbonate roof over the existing parking space for the property. Property is a relatively new infill build attached to number 61 Outlands Close and is in the conservation area. There's little design and visual information on what the proposal will present as in the street scene. However, based on the information provided, the structure does not appear to be an acceptable addition to the conservation area. Consider recommend refusal. Proposed carport is an unacceptable form of development in the Harpenden Conservation Area in terms of the design and materials proposed. policy 72 and 85, the district plan, and policy ESD2 for Harpenden neighbourhood plan effects. So I think it's probably wise for you to look.
Have there been any objections to this?
I'll have to have a little look, but not directly to me, no.
I saw it then, there were 2 in support actually.
Oh, were
Yeah,
they?
none against. Yeah, I saw it back then.
So there's very little information, unfortunately. Exactly. There's no sort of kind of basically that. And honestly, that's all of the information I've got.
I have a blue square.
Yeah. There's no design to show exactly what it's going to look like. There's just literally wording.
Well, I think just to start with, I would say recommend refusal on the basis the committee has insufficient information to properly consider its application.
Particularly in the conservation area, where we're concerned about what it looks like.
Yeah, and then whatever other language we're going to add, but I think I'd be quite keen to follow that tradition that we've used previously about refusing on the basis that they just haven't given us enough information to know. Councillor Lyden, I think that's.
I was just going to ask, is that their land?
Yes.
Yes,
It is.
yeah. So the parking sort of, it's here. So I think on the basis of this photograph, they're proposing to do it because of where they park their car. They get an awful lot of tree sap and bird poo, kind of debris, potentially, but just how they're proposing it to look doesn't sound.
Given where it is in Applicant's Close, if it was timber framed or it was equivalent, I wouldn't be that bothered by it because it's not, it's sufficiently sheltered from the rest of it that I wouldn't be particularly bothered about the
It's
inside.
using materials that are compatible with
Yeah,
conservation area.
and I think that's the problem. And I've got a lot of sympathy. I mean, I imagine that is a pretty horrible place to park a car because of the fact that it's a pretty big tree. I think it's a couple of trees actually, but.
It needs to be a design that's sympathetic with the location.
Exactly, and in any case, as we said, they haven't given us anything to make this
Yeah,
decision.
there's not even really, I mean, that's sort of the whole idea. That's kind of, that's where I got my information from. It's that tiny little piece of wording.
Which appears to be very good at being freestanding.
It's like stuck here and it goes, it's a cantilever.
Oh, is that what?
Yeah, that's what that means, basically.
Well, they put in a tree trimming application next.
I don't think they're there.
They're not there, no.
They could do it over their land.
Those cantilever gunpowder carports are actually quite attractive in the right place.
Yeah.
May not be sympathetic with that particular setting, unfortunately.
Yeah, so I think the wording is recommend refusal. Committee has insufficient information on which to make a proper judgment of this application. But with the information we have, we consider that the proposed carport would be an unacceptable form of development. With the rest of the language that's
Fine, okay.
Any other comments we'd like to add? No, all in favour?
That's good. Yes, I'll gather them all together.
So we've done 16 Townsend, I think. Oh, yes, sorry. Thank you, Harry. As I said, in the 4 weeks since we last did this committee, I have completely forgotten every element of chairing it. I think we probably don't need to call this in.
Which one?
63.
I don't think it's capable of being called in.
Carport.
Well,
Pardon?
yes.
I don't think it's capable of being called in.
Well, if we're saying recommend refusal, then
I
What are
think,
the criteria for calling?
I think either way, even if whether it's capable. of
oh,
being
no,
called in
because
or
of,
not.
sorry, no, what councillor Butterworth is referring to
The
is it needs to
criteria
be,
and stuff.
yeah, it needs to be a proper residential.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Leading it straight.
No, that's fine. At this point, just shouting if you're doing the wrong
Keep
thing.
you on your toes.
Yes.
People yelling at me to tell me I'm doing the wrong thing is generally appreciated in life. 2022 2143 doesn't meet the criteria. So On to 5/2022, 2156 at 21 Ambrose Lane.
Okay, properties on the end of the road sited next to the embankment down to the Nicky line. Proposal is to extend rearwards at ground floor level to half the width of the house on the side of number 19 Ambrose Lane. But the bulk of the proposals at the first floor level with extensions to both the front and the rear. To the front, there are two gable fronted projections which increase the size of two existing bedrooms and a similar arrangement to the rear to once again expand the size of the bedrooms. There are no additional bedrooms being added. The 45-degree visibility zone for number 19 Ambrose Lane have been avoided for both the front and rear projections. 4 parking spaces have been provided to the frontage. The existing materials are red brick with cedar cladding. A new proposal is for grey brick, cedar cladding and white render and grey slate roof tiles in place of the plain clay tiles. There are no clear works proposed. Consider no objections subject to no loss of meter to number 19 Ambrose Lane. Policy 72 of the district plan and policy ESD2 of the Harpenden Neighbourhood Plan Affairs. So that image there just shows what the will become.
And it's right on the end, isn't it? The Nicky line.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
Okay. Any comments from councillors? Councillor Westwood.
So I look forward to seeing the detailed plans, but I was wondering if no development, the house has already been extended. So this is a further substantial extension. I think we should look at it in that light.
Okay, so I've highlighted in green where the extensions are to be.
No, okay.
That's what's there. That's not really relevant.
And so green isn't new, thank you.
Green's new, yeah.
So floor area, probably not huge addition, but it is front and back. Increasing the footprint, and actually it's going to have a totally different look to the house.
Is it conservation area?
It's conservation area.
Oh, actually, okay, yes, I'm not sure what it
No,
is.
I'm not sure it is actually.
No, let me just double check that section of Ambrose Lane.
Probably not.
On the board there, perhaps it's still-
You know whether the house is behind, whether anyone's objected.
You know what? It's not, no. Well, here's Ambrose Lane here. Trying to think actually, so the Nicky lines there. That's just out. Because the Nicky line goes round, it's literally, so the houses on Clarence Radar, Ambrose Lane aren't.
Ground floor.
Those on Ambrose Lane are.
Yeah, the bits in Harpenden and North on Ambrose Lane are.
First floor.
The west boundary.
Oh, the Nicky line, yeah, so no, goes round it.
Quite clever, it sounds.
Pretty short plot. Not sure. I mean, if it's not conservation area, as I said previously, I think if we're looking at Lender, there are other houses down in Ambrose Lane that have house things done.
It's very quite a bit, yeah.
Including render, I'm sure.
I'm not that bothered by non-conservation area rendering. Provided that the rest of the streets are beautiful.
I think Ambrose Lane is made up of a collection of styles and materials.
And the practice probably do laid out street.
You can see just from here actually that the shapes of the properties are all very different.
I'm happy with the recommendation.
Okay. In that case, I'll move to a vote. All in favour of the recommendation?
That was agreed.
And on to 5/2022, 2022-2160, 47 Station Road.
Right, 47 Station Road. Proposed changes are to the front elevation to the open corner. At ground floor level, there is the loss of the garage with an extension in front to provide a hallway, store cupboard and a bike store. At first floor level, it's proposed to extend over the ground floor extension to relocate the existing bathroom to accommodate an ensuite to a bedroom 4. The extension is to be in line with existing forward projection. No additional bedrooms are proposed. As part of the proposal, the roof line is to be extended, although remains as a hip in design, just moves closer to number 49 Station Road. There appears to be ample parking for at least 4 cars at the frontage, no tree works proposed and not conservation area. Consider no objection. You can just see here actually that the piece that they're adding on, this is a big sort of open section at the moment, is they're looking to extend just here.
Would you say this conservation area?
No.
Place it on Station Road.
It's on the right hand side, you go up. Halfway. That's right where I go.
So
I got that one, where's Hartland West.
Is it?
Yeah.
Half and West, it's interesting.
That side, yeah.
let me see if I can try and.
No, it's not. He's the back of those.
Yes, that's it.
So yes,
It's a boundary
it's just after Overstone.
So
Yeah.
all of Overstone's
It's definitely not
behind Overstone's.
Let me just double check.
Boundary, I'm very familiar with.
So it becomes, there's a section just in, no, definitely not, no. So actually the conservation area, once you like Station Road, pretty much stops after Cowper.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
It's okay. It's obviously very, whether it's conservation or not, it's very visible to the people of Harpenden, but I think it's okay.
It's quite
When I'm familiar with the property, they do have a problem with the front door. The previous way it was extended, one was made the front door inaccessible. But it's one of a pair of matching Art Deco houses. And my first impression was it would be a pity to lose the balance. But actually, when you look closely, the next door house has already done effectively this.
Yeah.
So
It's already been extended.
what was done with this one was not great. So what they're now proposing is probably actually an improvement.
I think the house to the left looks as if it's done even more, actually.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes, I can see, they're just proposing sort of.
Yeah,
They are keeping a sort of Art Deco look and having the
Yes.
curve in the
Yes.
corner.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, agreed.
I think broadly speaking, it's fine, they're not doing a lot. In that case, put it to a vote, no objection, all in favour? Lovely. 5/2022-2223 does not meet the criteria required for consideration, nor does 2233. Keeping on my toes, these numbers. Nor does 1954. So we're on to 5/2022-2084 for a bit of deja vu at 22.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the existing Plan Auto site that we have seen a number of applications for over recent years. So this application is that the previous application, which was also for the submission of reserve matters, was drawn on planning technicalities. This application generally mirrors that application apart from the change to the makeup of the units on the site, moving from 9 one-bedroom units to 11 and from 30 to 2-bedroom units to 28. But essentially the proposal remains unchanged in terms of aesthetics and all other elements. And obviously, I consider repeating the wording from the withdrawn application, which basically says, despite outright permission being granted for the site, the committee remain concerned over the following. The total amenity space remains below that of the LPA's required standard in policy 7011 of the district plan. The provision of 1 parking space per unit and 5 visitor parking spaces across the site is wholly inadequate, which is highly likely to result in residents parking in nearby streets. Policy 69, 40 and 70 of the district plan refers. And the proposed on-site affordable housing offer falls well below the required standard 40% as detailed in the Harpenden Neighbourhood Plan, Policy H6 and Policy 7A of the district plan. Therefore, the committee recommends refusal of this proposal.
I don't think, I mean, we can discuss this a bit further, but I don't think a lot has changed. Councillor Butterworth?
Yeah, I'm struggling slightly with the technicalities, and it obviously has outline planning permission. The reserve matters appearance and landscaping. So we can only object in relation to those reserve matters because the principle is given. I'm not sure that is the case. We're not overstepping the boundaries of what we can object to.
SADC can ignore it.
Yeah, we're just consulting.
Yeah, so I mean,
Isn't it?
so the reserve matters specifically relate to appearance and landscaping. So, I mean, apart from the affordable housing element, I think we have sort of kept it to the idea of that to say that there's inadequate amenity space, so that strictly comes under the landscaping element. And then really, in a sense, the parking provision also comes under the appearance and landscaping because it's what's provided on the external areas.
Okay, so they've not, the parking provision wasn't approved in the outline.
No, because of it was just all an outline.
That's fair enough, that's fine.
Yeah.
Fine, thank you.
In any case, we're not actually objecting, we're just saying we are concerned about the following things.
Yeah, that's right.
So I think the previous one was exactly the same, and then the one that we sort of kind of went a little bit more to town, but was permitted by the district, was on access, layout and scale. So they're sort of nibbling away on different.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Any other comments from council? All in favour of the recommendation?
Okay, that's agreed.
I'm feeling we're removing all the repeating words from figures.
Yes, of course. It's after the line.
Just thought I'd.
Yeah, no.
5/2022/2169 at Beachside Island Road. I don't think we considered that long ago.
No,
Yes, correct.
you're right. This proposal is similar to that which was refused, but this proposal reduces the forward projection of the single-storey extension to the side of number 8 Byron Road by 1.5 metres to the gym and by 1.5 metres to the snug lounge. The bedroom extension remains unchanged. I believe the tree depicted in the street scene photo has already been removed, therefore no requirement for tree protection measures. Application approved for tree removal in 2020. So obviously consider no objections subject to the previous reasons for refusal being fully addressed. Policies ESD 1 and ESD 2 of the Harpenden Neighbourhood Plan and policies 69, 72 and 85 of the district local plan plans. Yeah, so we last time essentially refused it on size and also suggested that we needed to have tree protection measures for this tree, but actually the tree has already gone.
Any comments from councillors on this one?
With the recommendation.
All in favour?
That's agreed.
5/2022/2198 does not meet the criteria required for consideration. So on to 5/2022/2211 17 Shelley Court, Milton Road.
Okay, apologies. I couldn't actually get any better image than that, I'm afraid. The little car hasn't gone down there. Proposal is to extend the existing porch to provide a downstairs WC and reposition the front door. Two-storey rear extension is proposed to bring the full width of the house in line with the building line of the neighbour's property, therefore presenting a uniform rear building line. No additional bedrooms are proposed, just increasing in size. The rear property borders the train station car park. There are no tree works proposed and the site is not in the conservation area. Consider no objection.
Any comments from councillors? No. All in favour of the recommendation?
That's agreed.
So. On to item
So
eight.
forgive me, Chair, I believe we have not made any comments this meeting.
Not
Correct.
that I'm aware of.
Not that I need to initiate following today's meeting. Yeah.
Item 8, St Albans District Council Planning Validation Consultation. I will hand over to you to introduce us if that's okay.
Yeah, so this was is a live consultation that the District Council have for all of the validation checklists that they have for planning applications. All of sort of, I think there's 27, I believe, or 21 actually validation checklists. A number of them that cover the same questions or the same requirements, but with sort of little nuances depending on the particular application that they're applying for. So the district had issued a series of track changes in their checklists, which I circulated to councillors a few weeks ago, requesting for people to come back with their observations and comments. Councillor Butterworth shared with me his thoughts as to where we could actually make some various changes. Councillor Paul also came back with a few of his own points, and at the same time, I took the opportunity to look through with a view of what I, as somebody looking at planning applications, would like to feel were maybe included as well. So, on the basis of what Councillor Butterworth fed back, we'll go through with you sort of what some of those changes relate to. So we focused on the main one actually, which was a full planning permission for non-major development. There's some which are sort of a little bit more detailed, but ultimately these are sort of the applications that we're likely to see regularly. There's a mention here about that whilst providing 2 copies of hard copy documents and 1 copy of hard documents in a CD plan with no larger than A3, Councillor Butterworth says does not larger than A4 apply also to the online submission. So that's sort of, I suppose, really a technical point to draw to their attention. Mention here when it says about completing the application form, ownership certificate and agricultural land declaration, or they're requesting that actually the description of the development should be concise and most accurately reflect all aspects. As a Butterworth makes a note here that all aspects is impractical, all materials, aspects, consequences of failure to do so. So I don't know whether or not we want to expand upon that. More typo, which I can draw to their attention here in relation to open and closed brackets. There's a mention here about in the design and access statement that where the proposal consists of 1 or more dwellings or a building or buildings with a floor area of 100 square metres or more, that there needs to actually be a design and access statement issued. Councillor Butterworth says this is not clear. So what if there's new 100 square metre building? Yes, but what if only minor alterations for existing 100 metre square building? Which I can see feedback. Heritage statement, is the conservation area a designated heritage asset? If so, say so. And then moving on, I've made the suggestion actually here under the mention of existing and proposed floor plans that they are stating about including the written dimensions to show the overall size of any new buildings or extensions. I've requested that it's to all elements of the extension, because I've looked at drawings in the past where there's been a sizing relating to one element, but not to all of the extension, which I think would be really useful to have that.
It might also be worth, it's on there, it might be worth having the sizing of existing elements as well, where they are relevant.
Yeah, so I think it does say existing and proposed floor plans. So I think that, yeah, it's okay. So in a hope that they will take that on board. I've also made the suggestion here in relation to the street scene drawings, which I know in the past we've made comment that it'd be really helpful to have a street scene. I mean, it was really useful tonight looking at the Townsend Lane application to be able to see. So I've made the suggestion here where they said normally required when there's a notable difference in height between a proposed development. I've said that that it should be required when there is a change in height. So not just about being notable, but actually a change, any change in height would be quite useful. Yeah, so that's where Councillor Butterworth mentioned about the designated heritage assets being listed buildings. Councillor Butterworth says is a conservation area designated heritage asset? If so, say so. I can obviously draw that to their attention. There's sort of a little play on words here where throughout most of the checklist there's the word should, whereas in the mention here under heritage statement it says the word shall contain. impact. So it's whether or not that's a little bit of a stronger wording that it's, you know, more important that it is included. Then really, I suppose, probably quite recently with the number of applications that we're now seeing in relation to the heat pumps, that we make a mention here about should there be a mention of a noise impact assessment provided for, specifically worded to say that provided for heat pumps and air conditioning fans. At the moment, it just says provision of new plant or machinery, whether or not we need to be a little bit more detailed with being more specific with that. I've also made the suggestion here in relation to the tree surveys and arboricultural implications, where it'd be useful to have that where tree removal is also proposed, because sometimes it doesn't always detail where there's a tree to be removed and details of where the new replacement planting is going to be.
Yeah.
We don't seem to have any mention of that. Which I probably will explore a little bit more in detail, is that they mentioned the Harpenden neighbourhood plan requirements, but they don't detail in depth like they do under the other Sandridge and also St Stephen's Parish, where they're quite specific about particular policies. They just use the very loose wording here of that the application should demonstrate the proposal would comply with relevant policies. So I don't know if it's because our neighbourhood plan's got a little bit more detail to it maybe than what the other neighbourhood plans are, but whether or not we want to be more specific with particular policies or just leave it as being comply with relevant policies.
It's always better to be more specific. If we
Yeah,
can.
I mean, my understanding is that St Albans officers are a bit hardy. They're not so good at looking at the Harpenden neighbourhood plan because
Right.
it wasn't 2 pages long. So, and the fact that they go to the detail of the other neighbourhood plan would be shorter, they should treat it fairly. Otherwise, if the planning officers at this stage can't be bothered to do the detailed work, then the applicants won't be bothered to do it either. So they should do a proper job.
So, it's, you know, do we feel that we want to expand? Do we want to highlight specific policies that we feel strongly? I mean, we quite often have a recurring theme, certain policies.
I think it would be useful to quote all major policies. No, all major policies is quite a lot, but if that is an option.
Well, I think what it's getting at is not so much that, you know, things actually in keeping with the conservation area, but where the policy actually says you should demonstrate or you should show compliance with.
Yeah.
Where it's absolutely asking for information, I think that's what it's getting at.
Yeah.
Rather than it not being overdevelopment, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. If it was wider, you'd have to reproduce the whole
Yeah,
neighbourhood plan, which we're not yet, which isn't it. It's where something specific. There are various ones where something specific is called for.
Yeah.
I think that's what it means, and that's what it should be.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, for example, is it the SD 1 or 2 where there's
Yeah, I think if we given time constraints, if we just put on there that it's major policies where they're asking for specific information or where specific information. will
For
be
example, ESD 1 is a general paragraph, individually attractive, well, nothing more to say. Then it says for major developments in neighbourhood plan area, a design brief must be prepared, and it's that you need to highlight, the design brief must be prepared. And actually, that wouldn't take very long to go through it because there aren't that many of them.
So what do we need to agree tonight, Heather, in terms of?
So I think really in a sense to satisfy the recommendation of the report is that the observations that have been, the observations that have been shared will be submitted into a formal response to the consultation to St Albans District Council.
All in favour?
Okay.
Right,
Agreed.
on to item, I think I'm on item 9.
Yes, so I think we're now into the
It's a field, but there is a field,
Appeals
I
and-
can't remember
yeah.
what number we're on. So we've received an appeal at Clarence House, West Common, just for noting. And at 1 Browning Road, just for noting. Item 10, preservation order tree works for noting. Item 11, list of Weakness and Albans District Council decisions for noting. Item 12, conservation area tree works and technical applications for noting. Item 13, the next meeting of this committee will be held on Tuesday, the 11th of October in this chamber. The next meeting of St Albans District Council Planning Development Management Committee will be held on Monday, the 17th of October, presumably in their council chamber. With that, I bring this meeting to a close at 9:52, I think. Thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you.
Have a nice start of October. Still recording?
Yeah, very a second.
The reason why I said 16 Townsend isn't fit for purpose, my wife's been inside it and the place is. The garden in an excavator and to clear it, it's.
We might be able to invite
Fred.
Nigel round for a cup of tea tonight. Thank you.
We looked at one actually up in, we looked at one up in, Norton Avenue. There's one there. It's been extended. We looked at that.
Ours has been extended. That one, I noticed that one had, so it was actually,
No, we looked-
it was actually really small.